Hello, my name's Aviva, and today I wanted to share with you some age gap romance recommendations. So I feel like age gap romances are part of the forbidden / taboo romance niche, which I've been slowly getting myself into over the past couple of months. So I finally have a large enough stack of books to share with you guys that have age gaps in them. Some of them are more forbidden feeling than others, but all of them do touch upon the topic in one way or another. All the books that I'm going to share with you today are the ones that I started out with when I got myself into age gap romances. But it happens to be I am very down to try and delve deeper into the genre. So if after this video you have some recommendations for me that weren't mentioned in this video, then please leave me a comment down below, because I'm definitely looking for more books to get deeper into the genre. I'm down for more forbiddenness, more tabooness, everything along those lines. So leave a comment down below, but also subscribe and like this video while you're there. But with that said, let's get into all the recommendations. So happens to be, I actually thought to finally make this video because I just read Lessons in Corruption by Gianna Darling, which is an 18 to a 26-year-old teacher-student forbidden romance with a motorcycle club theme going on to it. It's the first book in the Fallen Men series, and happens to be I wasn't a fan of it, but I wanted to mention it in this video because this is actually the book that inspired me to finally make this video. And even though I didn't like it, some people might be down for it, even though I'm not really sure why, because it was bad for a couple of reasons. Mostly that it was love at first sight, which I'm just not a fan of. But if you like love at first sight, then go for it. But also, a big thing that I didn't like about this book was that the guy was younger and then the girl was older. And for some reason, I didn't vibe with that idea of it. And therefore, I wasn't a big fan of this. But if you do like when the girl is older, then you might like this book. I also know that this entire companion series, there's currently like 6 books out, and the 7th one was just announced. And all of them are forbidden, taboo age gap romances. They're all very large age gaps, extra taboo, like literally like throw in an extra ounce of taboo. Like I know that book 2 is a 17-year-old to a 36 or a 39-year-old, which is like a really big age gap. I don't know what the other ones are, but my point is that this whole series is very, very age gappy and very, very taboo. So you might want to check it out, even though I personally wasn't a fan of book 1. Next, I have Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher, which is the second book in the Dreamland Billionaires Companion series. This series is about 3 brothers. They each get their own book, and basically their grandfather was the owner and founder of Dreamland amusement park, which is very similar to like Disney and Pixar. And basically when he died, he left in his will that before all of his grandchildren can inherit their portion of his company, they have to fulfill this clause. So in book 2, you have Declan, and before he can become CEO and get his portion of the company, he basically has to get married and have a child. But he is very not interested in this. He is like just a businessman. He doesn't really care about starting a family or anything like that. So after a couple of circumstances happen, he ends up having an arranged marriage. Well, not an arranged marriage, like a marriage of convenience with his personal assistant, Iris, who is 24 years old. So it's an age gap between Iris, his personal assistant, 24 years old, and Declan, who is about to be CEO of a really big company, and he is 30 years old. So 24, 30 years old. And it happens to be, this isn't very heavy on the age gap, but it is there, and you do get the vibe of like how she's much younger, just still trying to figure out her life sort of thing, and like he's much older, he's already like very much a businessman, all about work, stuff like that. So I feel like you feel the age gap, even though it's not very heavy on the forbiddenness of the age gap, because obviously they got married and they're not like, well, this is too weird because like we're off on age. Like it doesn't really touch upon that, but you do feel the age gap. So I feel like if you were going to get yourself into age gap romances, this might be a really good one to start with, because it's almost like hardly there, but it is, you know? Next, I wanted to quickly get out of the way Mariana Zapata. So Mariana Zapata is very well known for her slow burn romances. She's also very well known to write really grumpy male characters, which people end up absolutely falling in love with. They're like, you know, grumpy sunshine situations, and then you end up finding out that he's like an absolute cinnamon roll by the end of it. And happens to be, I'm a huge fan of her. And one thing that she is very well known for is also writing age gaps. So I have read a handful of her books, and not all of them, you know, fit into the age gap like topic or whatever, but happens to be all of these do. So I have All Roads Lead Here, Luna and the Lie, Wait for It, Culty, and Underlock. So all of these do have age gap romances in them. They're all about different stuff, and they all have like, you know, different amounts of age gaps, but they're all definitely there. It's all touched upon like very heavily of like, well, I stayed away from you for so long because, you know, I'm too old for you, and like, you know, I shouldn't like bring you down because like, why do you want a guy that's so much older? Like in all of these books, you very heavily feel feel that. So like All Roads Lead Here is just like a regular small town romance between this guy who like it works for like the wilderness or something. I forgot what he works for, but like, you know, he's always like out and about, and it's like a single dad trope. So like he already has a kid, and this girl ends up coming and living on his property, and then they end up having like, you know, a very slow burn romance. And, you know, he's very much a dad and she's much younger. I think she's like 26 and he's like 40-ish, somewhere along those lines. I can't remember the exact age, but basically this one is absolutely amazing. Luna and the Lie is also a very big age gap. I forgot what it is. I think I have it written down, one second, because I have my laptop right in front of me so I could try to remember this stuff. So Luna and the Lie is 26 to 41. So this was actually a very big feeling of an age gap. Like this one was a boss to a worker. Like they both worked in the mechanic shop, and she like paints cars for a living, and he is the owner of the company. She's 26 years old, he's 41, and happens to be, you find out throughout the book that he actually stayed away from her for so long because of his age. He thought he was way too old for her and that she wouldn't be interested, but then happens to be she obviously was. And then it's a really cute story how it all works out. So I absolutely loved Luna and the Lie. Wait for It is actually another age gap romance. So I have it written down how old they were. It's 29 to 41 also, so a very big age gap also. This is actually a single mom. So she has 2 kids, and then her neighbor is the guy who's 41 years old, and he slowly comes into her life, and you know, they start to get close, and then obviously they're gonna have a romance. And I specifically remember him being like, well, I never made a move on you because like I was a little older and I didn't think you'd necessarily be interested. Like, why do you want an older guy, you know? Like in all of these books, you get that vibe very, very much, and I absolutely love it. It's so freaking cute. Anyway, next up we have Culty, which is a sports romance. So it's 2 soccer players, professional soccer players, and happens to be the girl always looked up to this pro soccer player growing up. Like, what is Culty? Do I have it written down? No, I don't have the ages written down. But basically, Culty, she was a child when he was already a pro player. So obviously he's much, much older than her. And she always wanted to become a pro soccer player because of him. Then the story starts out where she is now a pro player and he ends up becoming her coach. So it's like forbidden, you know, coach and student can't be together. They end up forming like a really cute friendship, and then the romance starts, and happens to be it's an age gap and is absolutely adorable. And then the last book that I have is Under Lock, and this is a 24 to a 33-year-old. I'm very happy that I wrote down at least some of them, but basically this one is more of like a motorcycle club romance. The guy is like part of a motorcycle club, and he owns like a tattoo shop, and she ends up becoming the receptionist for his tattoo shop. So it's like, you know, forced proximity, they're working together, and then obviously they're gonna have a romance. And again, 24, did I say 24? Yeah, 24 to 33, definitely an age gap, and you definitely feel it. So if you're down for age gap romances where it touches upon the idea that like this is forbidden and like we shouldn't be together because, you know, I'm older and you're younger, but it doesn't feel as like gross somehow. I mean, even though like, you know, you're reading age gaps because it kind of has that forbidden like weirdness to it, but basically these are really good age gap romances to start with because they feel like just a regular romance, but they definitely have age gaps in them. By the way, that was so heavy. My wrist is literally like hurting right now. I should not have held those up like the whole time. But next up, I do have a Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, which is one of the first age gap romances I ever read. This is about a girl who is 19 years old, and she ends up moving in with her boyfriend and her boyfriend's father, and she ends up having a romance with her boyfriend's father, who happens to be, I think, like 36 years old. Like he had a son when he was really young. So 19, 36, very large age gap, very, very taboo feeling, not only because of the fact that it's an age gap, but also because it's her boyfriend's father. So I don't even know what more I could say about this book. Like I don't want to give away anything, but all I'm going to say is that if you like the forbiddenness, if you like that, like that feeling that you get when it's like, this is wrong, but we're gonna do it anyway, then I highly, highly recommend picking this one up, because I definitely had mixed feelings when I was reading this. I'm like, I'm not sure if I'm okay with this, but also I'm really intrigued because Penelope Douglas's writing is very easy to consume. So dual perspective, you get to see both persons' points of views, and it's something to try out. Next, I have one of my favorite books of all time, which is Hot House Flower by Kristen Becker-Ritchie. So this is a book that is part of the Addicted/Calloway world. This is the first book that we actually get to see Daisy and Reich's point of view. So in this entire series, it's a collection of 10 books. You're following 3 different romances, and you get to see everybody's point of view in specific books. And happens to be, this is Daisy and Reich's first book, and it happens to be at the beginning of their relationship, which is an age gap romance. So they first first met when she was 16 and he was 24. And when this book starts, she is now 18 and he, I guess, is 26. And this is very heavy on the idea that it's an age gap romance. They've liked each other for a very long time when it was very forbidden, when he could have gone to jail for being with her, and they pushed it off for a very long time. They held in their feelings, they just stayed friends, and then finally, when this book starts, they cannot hold it back anymore, and then their relationship starts. It's absolutely adorable, one of my favorite age gaps I've ever read, and I highly recommend it. You very much do have to read the entire series before you start this book. This is like the 5th book that you'll read in the series. If you want to know more about the series, how to read it, orders, everything like that, I'll make sure that I have a video linked down below. But I definitely don't recommend jumping straight into this book, even if you only want to read it because it's an age gap. Like, you're going to miss so many important previous details if you don't read the other books beforehand. But I had to mention it in this video because this is such an amazing age gap from one of my favorite series of all time. So it would be rude of me if I didn't mention Daisy and Reich. Next, I have Scandalous by L.J. Shen, which is the 3rd book in the Sinner of Saints series. So I've mentioned this series a bunch on my channel. I love this series. I try to stick it into any video that I can because I'm just a really big fan of it. It was one of the first dark romance series that I ever picked up, and it will forever hold a very special place in my heart. So this book specifically is an age gap romance with a workplace environment sort of vibe going on. So in this book, you're following this girl who is, I think, 19 years old, and I don't remember how old the guy is, but he's a single dad. I think he's maybe 36 years, somewhere around that age. And he has a really little kid, and happens to be he's an owner of the company, and his partner is this girl's father. So she ends up getting an internship in their office, and obviously they're going to end up having this very forbidden romance. Not only because it's an age gap, which it definitely feels like an age gap romance, but also because her father is his partner, and you shouldn't mix business and pleasure stuff. You know what I mean? So anyway, this one's really good. This one's pretty steamy. I remember when I read this, originally when I was just getting myself into dark romances, I was blown away by this. I'm oh my God, this is definitely scandalous, and I highly recommend it. I think this was either the first or the second age gap romance that I ever read. I don't really remember, but my point is that I loved it. It's one of the first books that actually got me into wanting to check out more age gap romances. So I highly recommend it, but I also highly recommend reading the entire companion series because I loved every single one of these books. Then I also have Voyeur by Fiona Cole, which is the first book in a series, but I like to think of this as a standalone because I know what the other books are about, and they touch upon some topics that I'm not very comfortable with, specifically cheating. So I decided that even though I can continue with the series, I'm not going to, and I'm just going to think of this as a standalone because I absolutely loved book 1, and I don't really want to ruin the vibe of it in my head, you know what I mean? But anyway, that was off topic. This book is a teacher-student forbidden romance. So this girl is in college. I don't know how old she is. I think maybe she's 19. I forgot how old the teacher is, but it's definitely age gap because he's already a teacher. Maybe he's 30 years old, somewhere around that age. I don't really remember. Maybe 29, maybe 32. Who knows? But basically, it does feel very age gappy, and happens to be this girl, she needed money for tuition, so she ends up working at this sex club where people can come in and anonymously watch her. They'll ask her to do sexual things behind a one-way mirror, so she doesn't know who's actually asking her, to do this stuff, but she does it, and then they watch, and obviously they're gonna get turned on by it. So happens to be she does this for a little bit, starts saving up money, and this guy is a part of this club, and he gets very obsessed with her, starts watching her, starts requesting her all the time, and then school finally starts. She walks into class one day, and who do you know is her teacher, the guy that has been anonymously watching her. So he recognizes her, she doesn't recognize him, and then the story is going to go from there, and they're going to have a very forbidden teacher-student age gap romance. So I loved this book. It's not a very large book, but yet I feel so much happened, and I loved it. I recommend it. It's an age gap, it's forbidden, it's teacher-student. I mean, there was so many good things about this book. I think you should check it out. And the last book that I wanted to share with you is A Not So Me Cute by Megan Quinn, which is a very cute fake dating rom-com. It's about this guy who is a billionaire, and he's trying to make this deal with one of his business partners, or whatever it is that you call it. I don't know. But my point is that he's trying to make a deal, and he somehow tells this lie. I don't know why he does it. He doesn't know why he does it. My point is that he tells this lie that he actually has a pregnant fake fiance, and that they're going to go to dinner with this guy next week. So he told a lie. He doesn't know how to get out of it, and he did it because he wants to get closer to the guy. That's why he did it. I forgot. My point is that he told this lie, and now he needs to find a pregnant fake fiance. And then he happens to run into this girl who just lost her job and is looking for a very rich guy to marry her because, you know, she needs some money. And it was kind of like a joke, like, oh, I'm just looking for a rich guy. But like she ends up literally bumping into the guy, and then he offers to, you know, fake date him. And she, for some reason, says yes. And then they're going to end up having a romance. So it's very cute. It's very like laugh out loud, funny sort of book. And it definitely has an age gap in it because what did I say? I have it written down. Again, I just have to look at it. 28 to 35. So I feel like I wrote it down specifically because I remembered like it feeling age gappy at the time. So I feel like it must have been mentioned here or there, but this is another one of those books where like it's not very taboo forbidden age gap romance feeling. Like it's not like, oh, well, we're different ages, so this really shouldn't happen. Like I just feel like it was mentioned in the book, and it does have an age gap, and it was mentioned, so I'm putting it in this video. But it's one of those ones where it's like, if you want to just dip your toes into it, then this might be a really good one because it's there, but it's also like not in your face sort of things. Anyway, good book, Fake Dating, recommend it. That's all I got for you. So let me know down below if you have any more age gap romances that you think I should check out, that you think I might enjoy, because I'm definitely down to, you know, get deeper into this niche. But anyway, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to my channel, subscribe to my channel. Because why not? And then also, thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you for clicking on it. And until next time, enjoy reading.